Okay, let's continue. So we've talked about carbohydrates, which you definitely need to know for your test. We've talked about lipids, all of that. We've talked about the characteristics of life that you need to know. So for this last video, things that you really need to know are the nucleic acids, and we're going to also be talking about the proteins and specific proteins called enzymes. You did a lab with enzymes and starch and Benedict's solution. Let's start. So nucleic acids are complex macromolecules. Right? Remember, a macromolecule, a big molecule, something that stores genetic information in the form of a code. Right? There'll be much more of this in AP biology, which I hope you take, but for now, this is what you need to know. So at the bottom, it gives you an idea of what they do. It says it stores and transmits the genetic code. The genetic code is responsible for everything from your hair color to eye color to how tall you are to whether or not you like to eat mushrooms, to different personality traits as well. Okay? So nucleic acids, they do two things. They have one function. It stores and transmits genetic information. There are two kinds of nucleic acids. There's DNA, which you've obviously heard of before, but you should know what it stands for. So it stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay? This is the double-stranded structure of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. And there's a single-stranded version called RNA, which is ribonucleic acid. RNA is used to build proteins. Okay? At the top here, we have each element that builds a nucleic acid. So we have C for carbon, H for hydrogen, O for oxygen, N for nitrogen, and P for phosphorus. Okay, so bigger things like DNA, right? They're macromolecules. Nucleic acids are macromolecules. They're always built up of simpler pieces, big things built up of something simpler. What is the monomer? The simpler piece that builds up the polymer. So the simpler piece is a nucleotide. A nucleotide has three parts. It has a base, sometimes what's called a nitrogenous base, nitrogen-based base, nitrogenous base. It has a sugar. We've looked at the structure of sugars before, and it's got this phosphate group as well. Do you need to be able to draw this? No. Might you need to kind of recognize it a little bit, that there's three pieces of it? Yeah, maybe, if I gave you a picture of it, maybe to recognize that it is a nucleotide. But you definitely should be able to tell me the three parts for a nucleic acid. And you should be able to tell me what it does. What is its function? Its function is to store and transmit genetic information. Okay, you can go through this as well. It's important that they contain all the genetic information needed to live. What does that mean? Well, we'll talk about that more in AP biology, but essentially what nucleic acids do is they direct the construction of proteins. That's what they're responsible for. They're buildup of smaller monomers of nucleotides. And the nucleotides have a sugar, a phosphate group, and a nitrogen-containing base, a nitrogenous base. Okay, that brings us to the proteins. Okay, the proteins are built up of the following elements. So they have a C for carbon, right? These are all organic molecules. Organic meaning they're carbon-based, carbon-carrying molecules. So they have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. What are the functions? What does it do? Well, proteins are very varied in their functions. They do many different things. So one thing they can do is be a transport molecule. So for example, the protein hemoglobin in your blood helps transport oxygen throughout your body. They can be used for storage. So iron becomes stored in the liver from a protein complex. It can be used for mechanical support. So things like skin, bones, and hair, they're all built of a protein called collagen. Collagen. Hormones. Hormones direct many kind of chemical activities in the body. Enzymes. Enzymes, we've looked at one in class, right? We looked at amylase, the one that was found in your saliva, in your spit. And they are catalysts, biological catalysts found in your body, and they help speed up chemical reactions. And they help control metabolism. They're also involved in your immune system with antibodies. So the function of proteins are very varied. They do a lot of work in the body for you. Okay, so what is the building blocks of proteins? What are the basic kind of monomer structures of proteins? They are built up of chains of amino acids. Different sequences of amino acids build up a protein. There are 20 amino acids. And you can imagine by mixing and placing 20 different amino acids in different orders, then you can build a lot of different structures from that. Okay, down here you get the basic structure of an amino acid. You've got the nitrogen there forming the amino group. You've got a carboxylic acid group. Not important that you know this or understand. Again, AP biology. The part that's different on each amino acid is indicated by the R. Okay, the elements there, the chons, the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur. And of course, they're made up of smaller units called amino acids. Okay, the different bonds that hold the different amino acids together. Remember, there are 20 different ones that can be arranged in different ways. The bonds that hold them together are called peptide bonds. And when you form a peptide bond, you take off an OH group, that's a hydroxyl group here, and you take off a hydrogen on the other side. And again, it's a hydrolysis reaction in that you're releasing water. So a lot of these are very similar. They all release water. And there we have the finished peptide bond. It's a dipeptide because we have two amino acids that are joined together. And we've looked at this before. It's amino acid. So proteins are very large and complicated molecules. So they're large and complicated. Hi, I'm telling you